What's up? I'm Dan Fredenberg, and this is another chance encounter. Hey, what's up? I'm Dan Fredenberg. I'm a commercial real estate guy. I'm from the internet. We're seeing more properties like this being built in front of a house. It's going to be torn down soon.
I understand that there are power lines that are just kind of close.
What's up again? This is Dan Fredenberg, and that there is a commercial real estate building. Hey there, my 9-year-old daughter has a reminder for you using this paper katana, and that is to make sure you hit the gear and use the speed controls, because it changes it from this, ready, into this. Like magic. I'm joined today with Garrett Durant. How are you doing today, Garrett?
I'm doing well, Dan. Thanks for having me, man. How you doing?
I'm fantastic because, after all, I'm not sure if you're aware of this or not, but today we are joined by my very favorite member of the audience. And why is my favorite audience member here? It's because this is a chance encounter where I interview commercial real estate players. That means deal sponsors, passive investors, buyers, sellers, all that kind of stuff. And that might make you think, why are you doing that? And the answer is, if you've ever heard of an off-market deal, these are the private ones that you're not allowed to publicly discuss, well, you should know that the SEC requires pretty often that you have documentation of your prior substantive relationship, or else they'll get ants in their pants. And then they might take your business away in the form of rescission, which is very, very bad. So I have people on here, and we talk about what's your core competency, find out appetite for risk, basically what exactly you're looking for. And the benefit to you is you will learn to more effectively communicate on the subject of commercial real estate deals, which is going to be pivotal if you get into real estate. But before we get too technical or into anything like that, Garrett, do you want to introduce yourself a little bit?
Sure, man. Yeah, thanks. Love the intro there. That was awesome. Anyway, yeah, so Garrett Durant, that's my name. Obviously there, and got into the commercial real estate side of things in multifamily a little over a year ago. Was blessed to be involved with the Michael Blanc community. If you guys have ever heard of him. So that's where I got a lot of my training and expertise working alongside him. And was recently blessed on closed on a deal in, the Dallas area, Dallas, Texas area, 113 units, value add opportunity, great cash flow, great appreciation. So, very blessed to be a part of that. And, we closed on it and things are going very, very well there. And met Dan, and now here we are, and appreciated to be here and grateful to be here, man. So that's where I'm at.
Excellent, excellent. I love it. In the first segment, I'll scoot over here a little bit. The first segment that I always go through in these chance encounters is the 5 distinct motivations. But before I do that, I always got to say, but wait, check your rate. Garrett, I don't know if you can give this a try or not, but try and look through your camera and down into the user's device. It's actually at their 5. There might be this big hideous subscribe button that maybe they should do something about it before, like, okay, it's a dumb joke, but whatever. The 5 distinct motivations. I've now literally interviewed hundreds of commercial real estate players, and everybody is their own individual. They have their own unique reason why they are getting involved in commercial real estate, or why they continue to do it day in and day out. But I've found that they fit pretty neatly into these 5 different categories. And of course, it's important for real estate people to know what those motivations are as they're interacting with each other, because when the going gets tough, you got to have some sort of idea of what's going to keep them from throwing in the towel. Now, the first motivation for making commercial real estate acquisitions that is on this list is preservation of purchasing power. What on earth is that? Well, some people, they are either earning far more than they're going to be spending, so a good chunk of their income is going to be going towards investments and savings, or some people are completely work optional and they rely on their portfolio to make ends meet. Now, of course, if inflation rears its ugly heads, maybe the T word, tariffs, something like that, making costs go up, asset crashes, all that kind of stuff, those are going to be good enough reasons for somebody in this situation to make their next acquisition. Now, of course, everybody should be negotiating the best price possible, but at the same time, the emphasis here is that people aren't going to be motivated to make a deal every 10 seconds. They're not going to make deals for deal's sake. They're going to be a little bit more cautious. They'll wait a little bit more before pulling the trigger unless these factors really come in. And full disclosure, this is not where I am in my real estate journey yet. What describes me better is to trade time directly for wealth instead of a higher salary, a higher wage or something like that. And that stems from the fact that I got a background in technology, which is a space with high wage, high salary earning. But it hit me as I pursued bigger salaries. I noticed that there was a bigger tax bill that came along with it. And so when I started working in the tech space for real estate people, I started to go, hey, wait a second, I seem to be on the wrong side of the right business. So I started pursuing deployed capital, aka equity, as the main way for me to be compensated for my time. And that is really what I'm up to. And I get that that's a little bit too nuanced for youngsters and some people. More often than not, when people are younger, they want to hustle like crazy and then retire early. But other people, they just want to have more control over their schedule. Either way, that's really what they're looking for, is they're looking for that time side of the equation, either right now or in the future. And the only downside of this mentality that you need to look out for is that sometimes people think secretly that's everybody's motivation, is to retire to a beach or something like that. But I assure you, in real estate, that is not universal. Some people are fueled more by ambition. They want to buy their entire hometown. They want to have that legacy wealth so that their great-grandchildren never have to hold a day job. And so that's why they're going to be hustling into their 90s. Now, of course, I understand that in some circles, that's a little bit vilified. Some people think that that's the greedy type of person. But the fact is, in real estate, it all comes down to the quality of the property. So you got to make sure you have somebody who's highly motivated and isn't going to be asleep at the wheel. So that's why I think there's no shame in this being your motivation, because you know that this person is going to be making lives better for the residents or whoever ends up renting or leasing the commercial property. But of course, that's not the only type of highly motivated professional in this space. Some people, instead of their own legacy or their own children or grandchildren, they've picked another sector of society, or maybe it's animals, maybe it's the environment. But regardless of what this is, when they figured out that there's a financial component to making a big impact in the world, and so that's why they're making their commercial real estate acquisitions. So Garrett, of those 5 different motivations, what combination of them would you say describes you best?
Yeah, no, great question, and I think you hit it on the nose that most people probably fall into those 5 buckets. So, well done. But yeah, I definitely, am, coming from a background where, I grinded hard, right? I'm an entrepreneur at heart, have a big sales background and stuff, and I did the 15, 18-hour days and built the company up and put everything on my shoulders and just carried the company through. So, definitely, I was earning a lot but not keeping a lot, right? So the tax benefit that come with commercial real estate and multifamily is definitely one thing that I have really been attracted to. Growing that, so it helps me with, tax benefits there. Also, a big reason for me is that, I love to, give back. I believe the more you give, the better life is in general, more fulfillment that you receive throughout life. So I'm more like want to leave an impact for people, want to get to get myself to a place where eventually, yes, I'm giving back to the people, I'm helping others, whether that be in their personal lives or their professional lives, however that may come. So I definitely believe time, is another one. Also time, freedom, that's another one that definitely I'm going to look after. So I think I fall into a few of those buckets kind of mixed in together, but yeah, that's definitely where my motivation lies.
I love it. I love it. Now, one of the issues, of course, of starting off with motivation is that some people, they reveal, that they're quite optimistic, and sometimes they might even see a little bit starry-eyed. And I like to taper that a little bit by going straight to tolerance for risk assessments. The fact is, all businesses, and real estate is no different, there are risks involved. And the fact is, when I first got into real estate and I was getting involved in one of these deals, I saw the typical questionnaire that the securities attorneys always insist everybody who's a partner fills out. It has really invasive financial questions like what's your net worth, what your portfolio size is, all that kind of stuff. You have to fill that out because they need to know that you have the real tolerance or risk, or else you really have no business getting involved in one of these deals. But when I was filling one of these out, I found that the tolerance for risk assessment question itself, it was problematic. It's multiple choice, and I felt that it didn't matter which one you chose. It lacked utility. You couldn't know for sure what the person's tolerance was. So I made my own one for this interview, and it is a fill-in-the-blank question. It is. There are many popular investment asset classes, but I think blank is too risky. So Garrett, it can be inside real estate, it can be outside real estate. You can give me one of each if you want. What's too risky for you to invest in?
Sure, and that's a great question. I think my risk tolerance is definitely a little higher than most, but if we're talking real estate, I would have to say risky wise, in my opinion, I think it'd be short-term rentals. So stuff like Airbnbs and things of that nature. One stroke of the local government's pen there, and they can wipe out your whole business overnight, right? A good example of that is where I live down here in Southern California in Huntington Beach. There used to be a lot of Airbnbs there. It's a huge tourist attraction, and the government said no more Airbnbs. Boom, wiped out the business overnight. So I definitely believe that is a risky business when you're talking real estate. Outside of real estate, we all know stocks, they could be too volatile sometimes and things of that nature. So I'm not really, into stocks as much as I am real estate, but I guess, that's where it would lie for me.
I love that answer. With stocks, I always get the willies as far as they're concerned because they got a PR department, right? That's an entire department that is designed to spin whatever's going on to sound more palatable. Whereas if you're involved in a real estate deal, you can actually interact with the people who are calling the shots, and I like that level of control. Now, of course, speaking of the people who are involved in real estate, in the actual operations and whatnot, I gotta confess that for the first 1 or 200 chance encounters, I did not include this next question because I thought it was a little bit of a fastball question for some of the people who are involved in the deals. Specifically, the ones that are more on the investor relations, the marketing, the public relations side of a real estate company. They're not really going to be the people who do deep dives into spreadsheets and then balance out, the payables for each different month, finding out which months are going to be in the red, which ones are going to be in the black, what kind of forces can really negatively affect returns and that sort of thing. So I felt it was a bit unfair. But at the same time, everybody in this industry is somewhat of a curator of deals. So there's going to be 1 or 2 metrics that they're going to focus in on to figure out if this deal's better than the next one. And for anybody in the audience who's only listening and not watching, I read out these 14 different metrics to jog my guests' memory so they can pick a top 3 or something like that. And what I have here is cash on cash, IRR, which is internal rate of return, which is basically like an equity multiple. So if you invest 100K, then what sort of multiple of that are you likely to get over the course of the deal? Then there's the cost per door. There's the net operating income of the property. There's the going in cap rate, which is basically a back of the envelope way to find out what sort of discount you're getting, because major brokerages, they do publish for major cities what the going rate is as far as commercial properties in general goes. Then there's the loan interest rate, which has become particularly important with lots of loans being assumed at better interest rates. Then there's the occupancy rate, which is the inverse of vacancy. So vacancy really is the deal killer, the enemy of real estate, and it's just the inverse of the occupancy rate. But then there's average income where the property is located. There's the amortization period of the loan, which again is very important, especially if you're assuming it rather than relying on bridge debt or something like that. Then there is the difference between the market versus in-place rents, so you get an idea of how much wiggle room you have as far as that goes. There's population growth, where the property is located, to give you an idea of how much disposable income people in the area have. There's the sponsor record, which is how many deals have already already gone full cycle, how many deals are on the go right now. Then there's the waterfall split or exit strategy, which is what's going to happen to your capital after the investment has gone full cycle. Is it buy and hold? Are you only involved temporarily? Something like that. And then the last one I have here is DSCR, which is debt service coverage ratio, which is basically how much of the revenue from amenities and rents is going straight out the door just to pay for the loan. Now, of course, that's not an exhaustive list, so you're welcome to add anything else there, Garrett, but do you want to give a top three or what really goes through your head when you see this list?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. And man, right off the bat, I mean, all of them I believe are important, right? For sure. Now, I guess it depends on, like you said, kind of who you're speaking with and, where their journey is in the, in the realm here in the industry. But if I'm looking just a quick snapshot here, I think, IRR definitely your multiplier, right? Your equity multiplier, learning what that is. It's like how much money am I putting in? How much money am I going to get out? Right there, it gives you a quick snapshot, right? 2x multiplier, 3x multiplier, 1.9x multiplier, whatever it may be. IRR. How hard is my cash working for me? In other words, then cash on cash. I mean, you definitely are going to want to know your distributions. How much are we going to be getting on cash? How much are we going to be able to be fed during the process, right? In this whole transaction. And then NOI, I think is huge. What the NOI is going to be that really drives the value up of the property, right? So that's definitely, in my opinion, something that needs to be looked at and considered. And yeah, I mean, like I said, the list is amazing, but I think those are the three that probably stand out the most to me.
Makes sense to me. I'm just eating up that answer like a delicious subscribe sandwich. It's a very intense
There you go.
to remember that it's time to bring out the Dan Does Deals Commercial Core Competency Cube with the 6 different roles in a commercial real estate deal. It really is going to be the linchpin in understanding how my guest fits into these commercial real estate deals. So what's likely to happen is you're going to watch this segment and go, wow, I really need to get a hold of one of those cubes so I can show my friends and family and explain all this stuff to them. And I thought of that already. The good news, it's absolutely free. You go to dandoesdeals.com. There's this big conspicuous button you can click on, go straight to the PDF so you can print it out and glue it together just like you're in kindergarten all over again. It's very exciting stuff. But again, it's so important that you can clearly explain how these deals are put together, who the different players are in these commercial real estate deals if you are going to make real estate a major part of your portfolio or your business. So let's get started. Now, the most public-facing person in a real estate deal is most likely the repositioner, and I'm getting all sorts of glare here because it's so bright. The repositioner, what you can see here, oh, yeah, there we go. Now I can get it. If I face myself, you can see it a little bit. So you've got a picture of a few different apartment buildings there and some paperwork because that is really where it all starts. A repositioner is not only a deal finder, they are going to have to do underwriting, in other words, doing the math, figuring out is this property even making the amount of money that the seller slash broker claims it is, because that's not a safe assumption. And then, of course, a repositioner is the person who's figuring out how can they find some more upside? How can they make it more profitable than it is already? And if there's anything that I think is a little unintuitive about repositioners is why are they so public and why do they have a huge network of financiers? Now, financiers, those are people, they are not involved directly in the deals in the sense of day-to-day operations. They're only dealing with paperwork, the owners, and capital itself. So the reason, though, why a repositioner has to have all of these relationships with the different financiers is because at the end of the day, if you can secure a more advantageous loan, that's going to go straight to the profitability of the building, and so that is why they need to know a whole whack of people who will finance the deals. But of course, the most intuitive spot of how a repositioner is going to find that upside is by looking at the operations, and of course, that's figuring out why these Benjamins are going down the toilet. But of course, there's more to operations than just unclogging toilets, collecting rents, mowing lawns, and that sort of thing. Me personally, in my experience, and when I throw my hat in the ring as a GP, I have a couple different sides. One is the tech side, so any sort of web-based application, inventory tracking, that's something that I can help out with. But the bigger one is to understand if vacancy really is the enemy. I tend to go towards bigger properties where you have a third party management in there. So there's the asset management part. But if they're dropping the ball as far as occupancy goes, somebody on the GP team has to have some serious marketing chops and be able to step in and get those units filled. And that's where I tend to throw my hat in the ring, even though I'm not local. Now, of course, there's only so much efficiency you can find in an operation. So the next place a repositioner is going to look is to get a contractor team involved. There you go. It's really tough to see right now because of the bright light. But anyway, the contractor team is to do renovations, fix the place up, make it nicer so that the future residents are more than happy to pay more in rent than the previous ones. Now, of course, if only things were that simple, you could go ahead and spend endless amounts of money on these improvements like gold plating with toilets, but it's not really going to turn into a return on investment. And if you're like me, see, I don't know if you know this about me or not, but I'm from the internet. So that means I need locals. I need boots on the ground, somebody who lives nearby so that if something goes wrong, they can be there in an hour or two. And categorically, that's not going to be me. I'd still be stuck at an airport in an hour or two. So that's why I rely so heavily on having a local on the team. Now, of course, the sixth and final role in this commercial real estate deal, it's a little bit more subtle. So I like to use a hypothetical to explain what it is. So let's say you are a physician or an engineer or an attorney. Maybe you've already got some Airbnbs or something like that yourself, and you think you know how real estate works. So you look at the building down the street that's 350 units, and you're saying, hey, I know how this works. I get my down payment, and then I ask the bank for the rest. I go to the financiers and lenders and whatnot and ask for the rest. So you think, hey, if I go to work, to the hospital or whatever firm you work at, and you get your closest few buddies, everybody throws in $100K or something like that, I bet we could take that building over. So full of confidence, you go to the bank and you say, hey, I want to buy that great big building over there for tens of millions of dollars. Do you happen to have, say, tens of millions of dollars you want to lend us? Well, they're going to halt you right in your tracks there. And if you're involved in some sort of coaching program or mentorship, I really encourage you to listen very carefully to this next part. They're going to ask you, who's your sponsor? Who's your KP? What's that all about? So in order to make sure that you're not going to basically buy this building, use all this depositor capital, and then run it all into the ground, they're going to insist that somebody on the GP team already owns a similar asset. So in other words, if nobody on your team has a 350 unit apartment complex in their portfolio, then there's no 350 unit apartment complex in your future if you're requiring a commercial loan. You're simply not eligible. So you have to have somebody who already owns that sort of similar asset on the GP team. And on top of that, in the GP team, you need your collateral. So you need to have a balance sheet of at least the amount of the loan. And you need enough operating capital, aka liquidity, to show that you can run the place effectively. And if you've got all of those pieces, you've got yourself a commercial real estate deal. So Garrett, of course, everybody to some degree is involved in the repositioning, and it's a very capital intensive business. We're all doing some investor relations, but which pieces of the puzzle do you anticipate focusing in on?
Sure, yeah. Definitely, I am more of the investor relations side of things, right, as you just mentioned. But after that, it goes heavily into the asset management side of things, right? So I'm definitely heavily involved with dealing with the property managers and making sure that things are doing, what they're supposed to be doing, and that we're driving the NOIs up and getting the occupancies where they need to be, and making sure all the stuff is in order. So yeah, asset management is definitely my skill set that I like to lean on, along with investor relations and doing it that way.
All right, perfect. So then let's talk about buy boxes. Now, Garrett already mentioned his Dallas property that was over 100 units, but when real estate people are talking to each other, say, hey, what you're looking for, what's your ideal property, that sort of thing, we're really looking for three main things. The first one's geography. Where is it? Which state? Which county? Possibly even which neighborhood? It's going to matter, okay? The second one is size. Now, in multifamily, the way you generally define size is by the number of apartment units, which is casually called the unit count. Now, of course, the reason why it's relevant is because the type of company that takes over 10 or 15 unit apartment complexes, they're going to be fundamentally different from the ones that focus on 150 and 350 unit apartment complexes. So that's why the size matters. Now, of course, there are other types of commercial properties out there. Some of them go by square footage, like warehousing. Some of them even go by acreage if it's industrial, for example. But that size constraint still matters. Now, the third one is most commonly called class. I don't like the term class because it sounds like it's only one thing when I actually separate it into two, so I like the term desirability. Those two things are the condition and the area. If you're talking condition, we're talking not only about how recent is the build or how recent has it been upgraded or renovated, we're also talking about the amenities that are included in that property as well. In other words, are there like hot tubs or laundry facilities, different things that make it nicer for a resident or someone who's leasing or renting to use that property. Now, when you're talking about area, we are dovetailing into the old broker trope of location, location, location. I don't like that saying because I think it's more traffic, traffic, traffic. If it's nearby where a gazillion people are passing every single day, there's going to be more intrinsic value to the property than if it's crickets all the time. Now, of course, we're primarily talking about residential, so that means the school districts will also be relevant in an apartment complex. And then, of course, all types of real estate, the crime rate is also going to be relevant. But both the area and the condition are ranked in class the same way as in grade school. So you have A plus at the top, and then it's A, and then A minus, then B plus, and so on. So Garrett, as far as your buy box goes, where's the sweet spot?
Yeah, great question. So I think the sweet spot is, class B or class A properties, right? Stuff where there's, minimal, value add, but there is some potential value add, right, to help it out. Maybe they need just some washers or dryers installed, like you said, or leased out, or maybe they just need some, like porch or something like that, or, just make the experience a little bit better, or class A that is, cash flowing all the way and very little risk on the, construction side of things, doesn't need a lot of improvement, maybe just better operations, better management, to bring it up to better speed and things of that nature. 75 plus units, in good metros, like the Dallas area, in Texas, San Antonio area, Fort Worth, or Pennsylvania, Chattanooga, things of that nature is kind of where I'm at mostly, landlord friendly states there where the laws are pretty firm. They're not going to change overnight kind of thing. So that's kind of where I'm at. Obviously the numbers got to match up. It's got to be a good IRR, good, growth rate and things of that nature. We can, get into the weeds maybe some other time. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with the buy box.
I love it. And so let's talk about people. Obviously, since there's 6 different roles in a commercial real estate deal that I listed off, nobody's really going to be all 6 roles for any meaningful amount of time. You're going to focus on some aspects of it and make that your specialty. Now, of course, there is also the fact that it is a capital intensive business. So, of course, anybody who's looking to invest in real estate, every real estate investor that you talk to is going to be interested in meeting with you as well. But because of our own unique skill sets, I find that we can all help some people a little more than others. With my background in technology and marketing and online, this podcasting business that I'm up to right here, the people who I tend to be able to disproportionately help are sponsors and KPs because they've got that foundation already built in where a person like me can make a disproportionately big difference. Whereas when you're first starting up, you need grunts who are spending 80 to 120 hours per week helping your business. And that's not how I'm at my most effective. And I think that that's better for younger people, quite frankly. But Garrett, as far as you're concerned, who's out there in the audience that you're most eager to work with?
Yeah, great question. Definitely eager to work with like-minded people in the industry. I mean, yeah, obviously sponsors, KPs, the more that I can meet of those, the better, right, to help us solidify the loans and things of that nature. But yeah, but also, people that are looking to invest passively, that don't want to be hands-on and don't have the time or the energy to, go find the deal and make sure the numbers work out correctly. And they're looking for huge tax benefits, right, because they need to keep more of their money and things of that nature. So yeah, definitely passive investors, the LP side of things, that's where we're looking for right now.
Excellent, excellent. And so the question on everybody's mind has to be how to reach out. And I'm going to sandbag that for a second by talking about myself. Now, of course, I'm fortunate enough to have this big, long, distinct last name. It makes me really, really easy to find, especially online. And LinkedIn is the platform where I spend most of my social media time. So if you want to appear on this show or on Chess with Investors, as featured on chesswithinvestors.com, DMing me on LinkedIn is the best way to do it. Of course, you can see more episodes of Chance Encounters on dandoesdeals.com. And then I also have this QR code where if you pause the video and scan it, then that'll bring you to my Amazon author page where I have a few different books on different business skill building related subjects. But that's how you reach out to me. But Garrett, is there a website or what's the best way for people to reach out?
Yeah, sure. I'm definitely active on LinkedIn as well. So you can just look me up under my name, Garrett Durant, at LinkedIn. And you can check me out there. I have, obviously I have my website as well, Garrett-Durant .lovable.app, right? So that's a lot of stuff you can get that in your mouth. But yeah, so I'm on there as well. But you can find that on my LinkedIn. It's there. You can book an appointment if you want to learn more about how to make some passive income through real estate, or I have a ton of free resources you can get from me as well. So you can definitely check me out on LinkedIn and funnel your way through there. And I have a lot of good content on LinkedIn as well. So that's where I'm active.
Excellent, excellent. So, and of course, you can just rewind the video a little bit and play it back if you need to write all that down and get in touch. But that brings me to the final part, which is the public service announcement, which is not for you, Garrett, it's for you in the audience. If you've been watching this episode and experiencing searing pains in your eyeballs, maybe like migraine-like symptoms, I'm confident it's because of the downright hideous subscribe button that you probably forgot to hit so far. And full disclosure, I want a gazillion people to click on the button, even though it costs nothing. It's so those deadbeats at YouTube start to pay for these videos instead of me. I think that would be absolutely amazing. And as I said, there's no cost to you. All it means is that my videos might show up on your list of suggestions. But quite frankly, you can go ahead and ignore those suggestions. I just really appreciate the fact that you spent this time with me. Just like Garrett, I appreciate you joining me. This has been great.
Yeah, awesome. No, thank you, Dan. It was awesome being here. And thanks again, dude. Appreciate it.
Awesome. Awesome. Thanks.
You want to underwrite something, and there are people charging anywhere from $5,000 to $5,000 to underwrite something for you, and I just don't see that that's fair. I think our goal is to demystify, or however you want to put it, the underwriting process. Is it smoke and mirrors? Is it that simple? In most cases it is, but I think people are just making it way too complicated, and my offer is you bring something to me, we'll underwrite it, no fee. Maybe we'll get some views, maybe you'll find people who are interested in what you're looking at and take it from there. I think our goal is to show people that they can do it themselves, to show them that it's pretty straightforward and easy to do. Some people like to be more conservative, some people like to be a little more free-spirited is kind of the way to put it. To go out there and make some money, you're risking money, and that's kind of the goal here. The goal here is to kind of give you the basics so you can go into that next phase. The whole goal would be to create a spreadsheet basically of what your risk tolerance is and find something that fits your mold. Instead of underwriting 100 deals, find the deals that make sense to you. Do you want cash flow? Do you want appreciation? Do you want equity? That's all stuff that we'll go through. And I think it'll provide an immense amount of value for people to look at their next possible investment. We made sure that, what you're looking at is viable and profitable, because those are the two major factors when you get into this. When it's brick and mortar and you have assets, it leads you down one path. When you're looking at a strictly online business that may have intellectual property or something to that effect, you have to kind of look in that direction as well. So each bucket is going to have its own little nuances. No catch, just knowledge. I think you're going to get a lot of value from this, and just to show you that it's not something you have to pay for. There's no point in wasting time, money, and energy into something that's not going to be fruitful. When you look at these billion-dollar deals that I've looked at versus the $100,000 deals that I work with, the only difference is capital. There's really not much different to it. I mean, there might be more points on this end, or there might be, some hidden asset on this end, but it doesn't make a difference. It all comes down to capital and how you can make money. We're going to have a lot of fun, and we're going to get into the numbers. We're going to look at why this business is profitable, and what we plan on doing. There's no reason to beat around the bush. There's no reason to mail it out, wait 2 weeks for a bad example. We're going to go through it pretty easy, 10, 15 minutes, and you're going to get an answer. You're not going to have to wait. You're not going to have to look deep inside anything. The truth is, it's basic. Bring a franchise, bring a friend, bring a building. I mean, we can underwrite a horse race if you want. We can underwrite just about anything to make sure that there's value in it. We can figure out the Pokemon and Jordans, but a lot of that's just going to kind of be researching eBay.
And what sort of businesses can we underwrite in these sessions?
Bring anything. I mean, we can underwrite a garbage company. We can underwrite. Do it again.
Sure. Hey there. Are you interested in commercial real estate deals? Would you like to build your network of investors and deal sponsors? Well, the best thing I can do for you is have you appear on a chance encounter interview as featured on dandoesdeals.com. You may know me from 506BME or as a top commercial real estate voice on LinkedIn. And if I had to think of the top factors in your success in commercial real estate, my top two would be your network and your ability to effectively explain how deals work with effective communication. The 15-minute chance encounter format, it checks both of those boxes, and they ensure that you can share your private deals with me without the SEC calling it a public solicitation. So hop onto LinkedIn. You can see my name is over here, Dan Friedenberg, and search for my name. And the best way to reach me and book that is to message me through LinkedIn. And don't worry, it doesn't matter if you decided to enter this space just last week or 2 weeks ago, or if it was decades ago. It'll be fun and easy to look good. We're just asking multiple choice questions based on your core competencies you look to contribute, your level of sophistication, all that kind of stuff. So I hope to hear from you soon. Thanks a lot. Bye.